Jaguar fans, you can rest a little easier. Your Jacksonville Jaguars have found their new head coach,
Doug Pederson.
Doug Pederson.
Doug Pederson, the Super Bowl winning head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, officially named the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
They land a qualified and very good coach.
He's an offensive-minded guy. Trevor's going to love him.
That type of pedigree can take Jacksonville to the next level.
Welcome you inside TIAA Bank Field, Jacksonville, Florida, the Gallagher Club West. The Jaguars set to introduce Doug Pederson as the 7th full-time head coach in team history. Shad, Trent, Baalke, and Pederson set to speak in about 10 minutes' time. Questions from the media to follow, and we'll have it all live right here on Jaguars.com. Welcome in, JP Shadrick with you. It's a process that started in mid-December, and it ends now in early February with the arrival of head coach Doug Pederson. As Shad Khan said in his announcement Thursday night, he's a proven leader with a track record of success in the National Football League. Plus, he has a notable history of developing innovative offenses and the quarterbacks to run them. He was the first interviewee of the Jaguars leadership in this cycle and came away with a job after the team went through that extensive interview process with numerous candidates. His strong coaching resume won out, though. After a long playing career in the National Football League, he was a head coach at a high school in Louisiana for a few years to get started, then worked into the Eagles system under Andy Reid. He followed Reid to Kansas City as offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. He then later returned to Philadelphia, of course, as head coach. In the second season in there in Philly, the Eagles won Super Bowl 52, the first Super Bowl title in Eagles history, and he's eating free in Philly forever. Let's hope it's a similar story here in Jacksonville. Plenty more on his road to Duval coming up, including his long career as a backup quarterback in the National Football League. Senior writer for Jaguars.com, John Oehser, joining us now. Well, John, why is Pederson the right coach for the Jaguars?
Well, that's a question that takes a long time to answer because there's many things that go into this sort of thing. But the thing that strikes you, I actually did some research on this, JP. I have Googled just like everybody else. 34 men have held up the Lombardi Trophy as head coaches. 8 of them are currently in the NFL coaching. One of them is Doug Pederson. It's not as small a group as it was in the 70s, but it's still a small group who have done that. So he has that experience. That, to me, plays into the credibility factor. To me, what his franchise needed in this was somebody who could lead, somebody who players believe in, somebody who knows what the NFL looks like, what it is. Doug Pederson has held a Lombardi Trophy. He knows what this thing's all about. I think overall, that experience, quarterback, all that stuff, he just felt like the right package, but boy, what a package when it comes with a silver trophy on top.
No doubt about that. He's got that ring for the rest of his life, looking for another one, of course, here in Jacksonville. And the way he's built offenses over the years and adapted to some of the analytics around the teams and incorporated those in his play-calling style, and the quarterbacks he's used over the years to get that done, especially that Super Bowl season. Remember, Carson Wentz goes down. Different feel in Nick Foles. They had to adjust some things. They got it done, and they rolled the dice a lot. 4th down calls, 2-point plays. That's Doug Pederson.
Yeah, it strikes you. There's a model right now in the NFL, JP. Teams are going, quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator to the head coach. Sean McVay is the example. Zach Taylor, guys who are doing that. Well, guess what? Doug Pederson was the guy who did that, sort of helped set that template. So now you've got a guy who's done that, who has that resume, who does the things you talk about, but also, again, I go back to what this franchise needs, has the experience and the credibility, has been there before. I think that's a key factor in this. You want to make sure there's no learning on the job, and Doug Pederson will not be learning on the job, so that when you take that in what you're talking about, all of the innovation, pretty good combination right there for Doug Pederson coming in here.
He also played in the National Football League, a long career as a backup quarterback, and most notably under 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Dan Marino down in Miami in his earlier playing days, and then 2 different stints with the Green Bay Packers as the backup to Brett Favre in 2 different times. You see on the screen here, a couple of stints in the World League of American Football, and then a couple other stops, the Eagles, the Browns mixed in there as well. But Pederson, widely respected there as a backup quarterback in this league, and He's been in the league since 1991. He's been around it for a long time.
Well, unfortunately, JP, I'm old enough to have covered the game where Doug Pederson played quarterback at TIAA Bank Field.
Right.
So I'm not sure it's a good thing for me, but if you look at that resume, JP, that's a resume of a guy who has been around the league, who has seen all different facets of the league, has been in a lot of different spots, sees it from the coach's perspective and a player's perspective. There's nothing, I don't think, that's going to surprise him about this job. And again, I'm a broken record on it. I keep going back to it. Yeah. That, to me, feels like the need situation. The whys of why Shad Khan eventually said, this is the guy I'm comfortable with.
Press conference coming up. We'll hear from Doug Pederson, new head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shad Khan, Trent Baalke scheduled to be at the podium as well. It's scheduled about 5 minutes, a little less than 5 minutes from now. Might be a couple minutes delayed. We'll carry everything for you here on Jaguars.com. You mentioned the experience in the league, but the calming nature, the leadership ability, the presence off the field for Doug Pederson has been widely talked about. A likable guy from most accounts, and as you said, he's been in the locker room as a player before, has had success as an assistant coach, has a Super Bowl as a head coach. All that combined gives you a sense of calm and poised leadership moving ahead here.
Yeah, and throughout this process, there's so much discussion on what is a head coach, what is it, what are the traits you need? Well, there's many different ways to build that building, if you will. Doug has the X's and O's stuff. I don't think you could watch his offenses in Philly and know that he's been around Andy Reid and think that he doesn't know that part of it. But the ability to galvanize a team, to lead, I keep going back to the phrase, to have players believe in what he's saying, to have them look at the front of the room and say, this guy knows what he's talking about. I go back to something we talked about on the Huddle Up podcast yesterday, JP. Yep. The Eagles won the Super Bowl under him in 2017. They also had subsequent years where things did not go swimmingly during the regular season, and that team was famous for pulling together, for gutting it out, for figuring out a way in December to make that work. Players deserve credit for that, but I don't think that happens without a coach that players believe in. So I think that's a big deal for Doug Pederson. Having been through that before, again, I go back to this. My guess is there's very little that's going to come up in Duval that he didn't feel in Philly as well. And head coaching experience is not always the end-all prerequisite, but it felt like a thing that was needed this time around.
And for Pederson, I'm excited to ask him a little later. He's scheduled to join us after the press conference today. What did you learn in your year away? You get a chance to reflect on maybe some things you didn't do right your first go-around as a head coach and what he might be able to adjust now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, throughout his coaching career, he's had some significant quarterbacks to work with. He was with Donovan McNabb in Pederson's early years in Philadelphia there, and Alex Smith was in Kansas City. We know the quarterbacks as of late in Philadelphia. John, he has Trevor Lawrence to work with here in Jacksonville, and what a pair this should be.
Well, and again, this has been the norm lately. You bring in your head coach who has been around and can build around your quarterback. It's turning into that sort of a league. Pederson clearly showed in Philly. He won with Nick Foles and he won with Carson Wentz. Now, those guys are good quarterbacks, but they're not elite quarterbacks. If you can win with those guys, surely Trevor Lawrence is a guy that he can build around. I've got to think that when we ask Doug, what caused you to come back? That's what I want to know. A lot of Super Bowl winning coaches, they're done with it. He's decided to come back. I've got to think the chance to work with this kid, to sculpt him into his image, if you will. I don't know if that's that close, but to work with him and see what he can do, I've got to think it's tremendously exciting for Doug Pederson. Don't forget, it's easy to forget, Trevor Lawrence is an elite talent and was a big draw for Doug Pederson.
No doubt about that. Ashlyn Sullivan caught up with Trevor Lawrence earlier today. He has been in the building here at TIAA Bank Field today, visiting with Pederson earlier. We'll hear that conversation with Trevor Lawrence and Ashlyn Sullivan on Jaguars.com and Jags social media coming up very soon. Coming up in just a few moments, we're about a minute and a half away from the scheduled start time of today's press conference, introducing Doug Pederson as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, owner Shad Khan, slated to speak as well, and General Manager Trent Baalke on the podium also today. There you see the assembled media waiting patiently. We're hearing it might be a couple minutes delayed, but we'll have everything for you live right here on Jaguars.com. This is the 7th full-time head coach in Jaguars history, and over the last 10, 11 years, there's been a lot of change, a lot of turnover here. A calming, long reign as a head coach here would be a nice move for the Jaguars.
Yeah, we joked, JP. We've sat on this table, this podium before doing this, and I think every fan watching realizes that. That's not a secret. You're looking for stability. I think this is my 6th head coach that I've covered since I've been back in 2011. That's too much. You obviously can't build anything long-term when that's going on. One point that I didn't mention about the Trevor Lawrence, I forgot what it was, JP. So
right.
Lead me in another direction.
No, but Trevor is, obviously the #1 overall pick this past season. Went through his rookie season, came out healthy, which is the greatest news of all. Had some success earlier in the year. That waned as the season went on. They came out and got the win in the last week of the regular season. And now I'm looking forward to hearing from Trevor about his offseason coming up, his first offseason in the NFL, and then being able to work with a guy who's worked with all these quarterbacks at the pro level over the years.
I think Bucky Brooks mentioned this on our Huddle Up podcast yesterday. Doug has the ability to adapt to the quarterback that he's working with. It's very tempting when you're analyzing head coach hires to look at a past, so-and-so worked with this coach, so-and-so worked in this system. Doug Pederson, when they moved from Carson Wentz to Foles in 2017, was able to shift that offense, was able to play to what Foles did well. That's the key to me for a head coach coming in. You're always going to have different personnel. It's never going to look like what it looked like before because you have different parts involved. Doug's ability to adapt to that, I think, will serve Trevor Lawrence well. If I'm Trevor Lawrence, I've got to be ecstatic about that right now.
No doubt about that. And obviously in the building today to catch up with him on his first day on the ground. We'll have some behind-the-scenes stuff coming up on Jaguars.com as well of his arrival today at the airport and his tour around TIAA Bank Field. And there's a lot going on around the organization, of course, outside of football here. The development outside, the Jaguars Football Performance Center. Ground has broken on that. We'll get his thoughts on the future of that building coming up, slated to open in the beginning of 2023 for training camp of that season, but they're starting to move some dirt around, John. That's exciting, and I'm sure a big piece, a piece at least, of why he decided maybe to come back here to have a new facility in a couple of years. There's some momentum moving forward for the organization.
There's a lot of feeling that what the franchise physically and organizationally looks like now is not going to be what it looks like in 2 or 3 years, and the Foreman Center is certainly a symbol of that. I think, this team has needed for a long time with this facility to get that piece of the puzzle to attract free agents, to look like the rest of the league in that sense. And those things take time. Those things aren't done overnight. But from having an idea of the plans, JP, it's going to be an impressive thing, and it's definitely going to, I think, symbolize this franchise as you go forward off the field. Doug's going to symbolize what's going on the field.
We are inside 5 minutes away from the start of the press conference. We're told it was scheduled for 12 o'clock sharp. We're 3 minutes after, so maybe a couple more minutes away. We'll have everything for you here on Jaguars.com. Don't change the channel. We'll be right here with the entire press conference, the questions and answers from media after as well, and then we'll have some special guests join us on set right after the press conference concludes here on Jaguars.com exclusively, and we'll look forward to that. John, I'm curious, what do you want to hear from Jags owner Shad today?
Well, I think he'll clearly be asked about the process of finding a coach. He'll be asked about why was Pederson the guy, why did he make the most sense, and my sense is, and we're talking to people, what you're going to hear is this was a very thorough process that involved a lot of discussion and a lot of thought into how this is supposed to look going forward. People want it done quickly. My sense, everything I've heard is that Shad wanted to do this right and wanted to make sure that the time was taken that was necessary.
All right, we are moments away from the start of the press conference here at TIAA Bank Field. Jaguars owner Shad Khan, general manager Trent Baalke, and new Jaguars head coach Doug Pederson will take questions from the media at the end today, and we'll have, as we said, Doug Pederson join us here on set after the fact today. Trent Baalke will be at the podium. Actually, they're sitting there now. We're about to begin, and we'll have the full press conference here. Trent Baalke on the right, Doug Pederson in the middle, of course, Jags owner Shad Khan on the left here on Jaguars.com.
And also, Trevor Lawrence sent ice cream bars for everybody. So after the press conference is over, please go ahead and get one.
Thank you, Trevor.
All right, Mr. Khan, we'll start with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, everyone, for being here. Our first interview of a candidate to become the next head coach occurred on December 30th, and that candidate was Doug Pederson. And from there, as I've been told, it was a long, exhaustive process with no preconceived notions. And the process came to an end Thursday night, 5 weeks from the day it started, with Doug being our choice to be the next head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a tribute to Doug. The candidates we met in recent weeks were quite impressive, just as we anticipated. This was a highly sought position, and we were comfortable in really taking our time and being sure that we made the right decision for us. We could have been proud to introduce several of them today. So why Doug Pederson? He's a man who's accomplished a lot, top offensive coordinator, experienced head coach, won 3 division titles in 5 years, a man who just 4 years ago won the Super Bowl. And he did it for Philadelphia Eagles, a city very much like Jacksonville, was looking for their first championship. So in the end, I mean, we have someone who's been there, a head coach, developer of quarterbacks, a man who creates a culture for players and coaches alike, a culture they'll thrive in, and a leader who commands respect and inspires those around him, and a man who wins. We wanted someone who knows exactly what it is to be the last team standing in February and is passionate about doing it and doing it again. That man is the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Doug Pederson.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know, as I begin this morning or this afternoon, I just got to say, you know, thank you to Shad Khan and the Jacksonville Jaguars for really giving me this opportunity to lead this football team and to lead this fan base and to lead, you know, this city. Obviously, I'm eager and ready to hit the ground running alongside, you know, Tony Khan and Trent and Mark Lamping and really the entire front office and the organization of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you know, my wife and I have been here for a short period already this morning, but I can tell just walking through this building and the excitement that's in this building and have a chance to really sit with a couple players this morning and just get a feel for them. And this culture is all about winning. The players here want to win. I want to win. And that's what I can bring to the Jacksonville Jaguars, to this community, and to our fan base. As Shad mentioned, the interview process was thorough. It was very exhaustive. And even for us as candidates who went through the process, not really knowing what was going to go on. And I can appreciate the diligence that the Khan family presented, what Trent presented, what they went through with Tony, and really you know, the fact that they took time to get to this decision today makes me even more proud that, yes, I was the first candidate interviewed, and yes, I was the last candidate interviewed. And in between, there were a lot of great candidates. A lot of great candidates could be sitting here, you know, today. And so, you know, obviously I want to recognize my wife, you know, Jeannie. She's up here in the front row. And, you know, she's been by my side through everything. As a former player in the National Football League, to a quality control coach, to an offensive coordinator, to becoming a head coach, she's been there by my side. Our 3 sons, Drew, Josh, and Joel, they are so excited to be able to get ready to put on the Jacksonville Jaguar swag, as they call it, and get ready to support the football team and the entire organization. And, you know, to our players, and I think this is so important, to our players, my sole focus, starting from the minute that I was hired, is to really help them to be their best, help our team win football games. And it's our jobs as coaches to put our players in position to be successful, to develop their talent, one player at a time, one unit at a time, and that's how you win football games in the National Football League. And there are some really, really good players on this football team, and the pieces are here. And that's why I'm excited, and that's what drew me to the Jacksonville Jaguars, to be able to sit down, to interview with these 2 gentlemen, and now have the opportunity to you know, lead this organization. And to our fans, listen, I know you've been through a lot. You've been through a lot, even this past season. But that's about to change. And I can promise you that I'm going to come to work every single day with the diligent task to make this a winning organization. This is what he has asked me to do. This is why I've been hired here today. And this is a relationship that is just beginning. And so I'm excited, 1, to have this opportunity to lead your organization, but 2, to be able to get in here, develop a coaching staff, develop our philosophies, develop our schemes to be successful on the football field. This is not an overnight fix. This is not, you know, we're just going to snap our fingers and start winning football games. Our goal is to win football games, but we're going to do it one player, one coach, one person in the organization at a time. And I'll challenge our team, and I'll challenge our fans. It's about ownership. It's about support. It's about leadership. And that's what I'll bring to the organization. And I'm not going to settle for anything less than a championship caliber team. And I know these 2 gentlemen here, along with Tony, along with Mark, feel the same way. And so I guess with that, we got to talk. We got to ask questions.
Yeah. We'll take questions. Something? If you guys can please raise your hand, we're going to bring a mic to you. So
yes, we'll open it up for questions. And if you don't mind, tell me your name so that I can start putting names and faces together.
Awesome. Gene, we're going to start with you. If you can wait for a mic, please.
Gene Fournette, sports columnist from the Florida Times Union for Shad. At any point during this process, did you offer the job to any other candidate, and for whatever reason, that did not work out?
We had a process, Gene, and we ran the process, and we had great candidates, but you know, Doug is our guy, okay? So, you know, during the time, we interviewed over 10 candidates. Some of them, that really tells you the pool of candidates we had, you know, got other jobs, and that was great. But, you know, for me, this had to be exhaustive, but it had to be the right one. Some of the things that were really unique and different for me was to really get the insights of our players and insights of the alumni players. So they were part of it. It took a little bit longer, but you know, we wanted to get their insight, who we were talking to, and then allowed them an opportunity, obviously, to talk to some of the finalists.
Okay, as a follow-up, so does that mean that an offer was extended to somebody or not?
No, I think we never got to the point of having them talk to our players at that point.
Okay. Okay, and
So-
if I may add one follow-up, it is very unusual in a search to have the candidate that you settle on have a 33-day separation between the first interview and the second interview.
It might be unusual, but it tells you the thoroughness of this process. The first time, by the way, last year when we did the search, we reached out to Doug, and he was taking the year off. So this wasn't, impulsive. And how this process started, obviously, he was available for an interview. And the Zoom interviews under the NFL rules, could only start at a certain time. And then after that, different candidates would be available according to the NFL rules at different times. So our goal was really to, get it right and interview, as I said earlier. We started with a pool of candidates, and as time went on, there were other people who reached out to us. And this was an opportunity where, we wanted to learn and really interview everyone just to make sure that we absolutely had the right person.
Ashlyn?
Hi, Coach. Ashlyn Sullivan with Jaguars.com. We were in the hallway this morning, and multiple players came in and said, it's the off season, it's the weekend, guys are traveling. And I talked to Josh Allen, he said, I had to get here to meet my coach. What did that mean when all these players showed up and it was one by one coming in your office?
That just goes to show you the type of players that are here on this team. And that's a credit to Trent and his staff to be able to bring these players with high character, not only great athletes and great football players, but high character. And that's something that I'm a big believer in. And having that type of structure and to see and talk to these players this morning, to show the support and to be able to talk with them, and that's why I said in my statement, these guys want to win. Bottom line, they want to win, and it's got to be about football, and it is with these guys. And so it makes you feel good that they were there this morning.
Jamal?
Jamal St. Cyr, News for Jack. Shad, this one's for you. About a year ago, you sat in a similar position and told us this time you got it right. What makes you feel like this time you did get it right?
Well, I was just a year premature, okay? So I did get it right.
Hayes?
Hey, Doug, good to meet you. Hayes Carline with 1010XL. Shad, my question is for you. Can you shed some light on the management structure, how it'll go, who has final say on personnel?
I think, it's going to be a collaborative process. And I think all of us are aligned. The goal here is to win.
And I know you've said you have ceremonial sort of control over that, but in terms of, between Doug and Trent, who will be making the call on personnel, the final say?
I think they'll collaborate, and then, I'm part of the process too. So I think we haven't had players here in the last year that, it was one person's decision. And that's how it should be, moving forward, because we want players here who want to win and players Doug wants. So, our culture is not about just coming up with players and asking him to, coach them.
Mark Long?
Hey, Doug, this is Mark Long with the Associated Press. Curious, you took a year off. How much did you miss football, and what did you learn about yourself in that year, the year off, that maybe of your desire to be back in the stadium, back on the field?
Yeah, and that's been a question that's been asked to me a lot, about this past year, and and this answer might get a little bit lengthy, but it was a great year for me. It was a great year for me, and I had opportunities to get back in the NFL, at the end of the season last year, and I just felt like at the time that I needed a break. I needed to step away and kind of just refocus myself, kind of recenter everything about me, and I knew still in my heart of hearts that I did want to coach and still be a head coach in this league and still be successful. That never left. I just needed a time to kind of just step away and kind of gather myself a little bit. And it was a great year from the standpoint of we watched our oldest son get married. We had a grandchild during the season. I lost my brother to cancer last year, and so I got to spend quality time with family, and that means a lot to me. And and really to see the guys downstairs, that kind of begins the family process for me. And then, obviously my wife and I, I think to kind of even reconnect, because the wives in this business and maybe the husbands of wives that are in this business, they suffer, they struggle a little bit because it's a long year, it's a grinding year. And it was really good for us to be able to just take some time and refocus. Did I miss football? Yeah, I did. That's why I went and visited some guys in training camp last year, because I just needed that fix of football and be around it. And as the season progressed and I'm watching the entire league, it just got me, I guess, those football competitive juices back. And so by the time I got to the end of the season and, we get into this hiring cycle again, I was ready to go, and I was excited for whatever the opportunity, came before me. I had chances to interview with other clubs, and, this one really drew me in, and here I am and ready to go.
We're going to go John Reed and then Brent Martineau.
John Reed with the Florida Times Union and Northeast Louisiana graduate.
Yes, there's always one in the room.
This is for Shad. Do you foresee any restructuring of the front office with the decision making when it comes to that as far as structure?
Well, John, one of the reasons we had the search was not only looking for the head coaching candidate, but really to learn about other organizations. I mean, that's a byproduct of the coaching search. So some of the practices, some of the structure that works, we got a great insight into it. And so strengthening the football operations, more staff, that's part of our goal. And we've had too flat organization, and we want to add, brain power and, more people to, strengthen that.
And this question is for Doug. Just what's your thought about you have a franchise quarterback here in Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence. He seems to be excited. How much was that a draw for you that this could be a great fit for you here in Jacksonville?
I mean, that's something that I obviously looked at, with the teams that were searching for head coaches is who is the quarterback and is that person in place? And here it is. I truly believe that. And everything, as I've done my research on Trevor and talked to people, even talked to coaches who have played against him this past year, say nothing but great things, and kind of the sky's the limit. And it is unfortunate that that things didn't go necessarily smoothly this past year, but that's behind us now. And I'm just excited to come in here, roll up my sleeves, go to work, create a system that enhances his skill set, and be successful. I pride myself in that, and we did it in my former place with Carson Wentz early in his career, and really feel like that's a strength that I can help and be a part of that. So I was excited to not only be a part of this organization, but met him downstairs today for the first time, and just a humble kid that also is ready to get things going, and he wants to win as well.
Doug, welcome to Jacksonville. Brent Martineau from CBS 47, Fox 30, and ESPN 690. This question is for Shad. Shad, when did you decide that Trent would be a part of this going forward, even though you had moved on from Urban? And you have not reset the organization like that, a clean sweep, since 2013. Is there something philosophical at why you may just keep somebody around through a transition?
Well, 13, I think, first of all, Trent's general manager for a year. And, it's just like Mark Lamping as president. We have great, employees who are under contract. So, so we're not going out announcing, hey, we're keeping their contracts or something like that. So if there is a change, obviously we'd announce it. Otherwise, it makes no sense.
Is there something advantageous to doing that helps with the transition when you make a new coaching hire as well?
Well, to me, I think the most important thing is to have the best people here that are going to help us win. And I look at the organization. We need to strengthen it, and we'll be doing that.
If I could ask one more, Trent, we'll let you talk a little bit here.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this potentially could have been a tough month for you, the last month. What has it been like for you? And did you know that through all of this, you were moving forward as the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
This was a tough month? Is that what you're saying? I knew all along that I was. I had a vote of confidence from Shad. And as we went into the process, we had a plan. And there was no timetable to announce the next head coach. We went into it with a very open mind. We had a process that we were going to go through. We stuck to it. And at the end of the day, it was about getting it right. And we truly believe we got it right with Doug, and have no doubt about it.
Mia O'Brien and then Mike Duraco.
All the microphones. Hi, Doug. Mia O'Brien, First Coast News, 1010XL. Pleasure to meet you. Very excited to teach you the ways of the ice cream here in Jacksonville.
Let's go.
Shad, this question is for you. It has been reported that several of the candidates had trepidation about the power structure here in Jacksonville when interviewing for the position. Knowing there may be roadblocks, why did you not make a change?
The candidates, we had discussions on how we're structured, open, candid discussions, and there was no one, and Trent was there. Just like I think the harmony between the head coach, general manager, I think is very, very important. So, these are open adult discussions, and, there was no one who said, okay, I don't want to be part of it. I think everyone, continued the process.
Building off of that, Doug, for you, having been through this before with the Eagles, looking at the power structure, what did you learn in taking a year off and during your 5 years in Philly that maybe you see that this organization needs to either implement or needs to enhance here, both in the power structure and how it operates?
Yeah, the thing that I learned coming out of Philadelphia too was just, and Shad has alluded to it, even Trent. We had such a collaborative approach. We had open dialogue, and we have tough conversations. That's why we get put in these positions, right? To make hard choices. It's never going to be in my favor, and it's probably not going to be in Trent's favor or Shad's favor. But at the end of the day, when we walk out on that practice field or that game field, we're Jaguars, and that's the way the structure was, where I came from in Philadelphia, and I see that same structure. And these are even the conversations through this process, and it wasn't just me being interviewed, several weeks ago in December, and then again a couple days ago. These are conversations that were ongoing throughout the entire process, and that's what draws you to organizations where, it's the head coach has also some say in picking the ingredients, so to speak, right? And I think that's important, because we're the ones out there coaching these players and getting them right on game day. And I just love the fact that we can get in a room and we can dialogue and make these hard decisions.
And just because you mentioned him a couple of times, how involved was Tony in this process? Tony Khan.
Tony Khan?
Yeah.
He was in both interviews, with me. It was really, for me, it was a great time just to get to know him and kind of what he does for the team and for the organization. And he asked some difficult questions, of me. But yeah, the process was really good, and it was great for me to kind of get to know him a little bit better.
Thanks, Doug.
Mike Duraco with ESPN. Shad and Trent, how hard was it to hear just a few moments ago when Doug said it's not an overnight fix? Because I know you guys have spoke before about winning as quick as possible.
Well, yeah, in the situation we're in, I don't think it is an overnight fix. We're going to go through this process. We're in a very good situation with a franchise quarterback in place. We've got a lot of ammunition with draft picks, 12 draft picks this year, 8 stored up for next year, and the cap space second most in the league as we sit here today. So there's going to be some changes. And in this league, I think if you look at what Cincinnati did, you can make these changes fairly quickly. We're going to go through it. The first thing is Doug and I sitting down with the rest of the staff once we get them in place and going through the roster and really putting a plan together for free agency, for the draft, and address the needs that we have. I think the thing to keep in mind, we got a lot of good young players here. The cupboard's not bare. We just have to add to that. We have to add some pieces at the right spots and get the right people in here. And the type of players we're looking for are players that love the game, high character guys that are going to fit the style of play that we want and the culture that we want to build here. So that's the starting point, is getting the coaches in here and then collaborating to see exactly how we're going to address the needs that we have.
Will Brown and then John Shipley.
Good morning. Will Brown with the Jacksonville Business Journal. Pleasure to meet you all. Both these questions are for Shad. The first of which is this morning, Commissioner Roger Goodell said the results of diversity when it comes to head coaches, hiring head coaches in this league has been, quote, unacceptable. As the only person of color who's a majority owner of a team in the NFL, what needs to be done to foster diversity from the executive ranks, front office ranks, and the head coaching ranks?
I think a lot needs to be done. I don't know if you read Tony Dungy's letter to owners. I thought that was very profound and really good. And I mean, every team, and it isn't one head coach fits all. I think that was the 30-plus day process for us. They're great candidates, and there are a number of clubs looking, and you got to have the right fit. And I mean, it's really personal for me in a way because, we interviewed a lot of people, and I think the league is very serious, but when I flip it, I mean, I've spent, hard to believe, half a century, dealing with corporate America. And so I was on the other side of the fence as a minority person, minority business person, looking for work from corporate America. About 40% of the business, is minorities, and yet they were doing less than 1% of the business. This would be primarily in industrial companies, automotive companies, and what have you. And so that journey was about, we don't want to set you up for failure, all that kind of stuff. And the metrics still apply, the same whether you're minority or not, which in this case would be a number of things, including winning. So, I mean, there's a lot of work to do, and I wish there was a quick fix. I wish there was a silver bullet for some of this thing. But I think it's, it says as much about America, frankly, as it does anything else. And we've got and again, I go back to, I think Tony Dungy's letter is really good, that there's a lot of heavy lifting ahead, and we've got to show results.
A secondary question. Remember last year, in June, we sat right here in this room, and we discussed how there's only one time to get it right in terms of having the #1 overall pick, a new coach, development opportunities, a quarterback, cap space, and draft capital. Well, we're in the same place. There are not a lot of opportunities in business to have a reset collectively. How important is it to take advantage of that reset with all of those opportunities still available that were in place back in June?
Well, I think, that's why we've got Doug here. So, so the good thing is we have all those opportunities, and we've got to take advantage of it.
John Shipley, and then Demetrius.
John Shipley, Jaguar Report, SI. Doug, just really in your year away from the NFL, what did you learn, specifically about staffing and building an organization?
Yeah, that's obviously the big topic when it comes to interview. And as I look around the league and I even think about the staff that I worked with and it evolved. It shaped itself over the 5 years there in Philadelphia. At the end of the day, you find guys that you love coming to work with, and we all have the same common goal, to win games. And we work together, and we're in place, as I mentioned earlier, to help the player to become the best version of himself, and that's how you end up winning the game. It's through one player at a time, and staff is important. And I love guys that are high energy guys, because I'm going to be that way on the field, and guys that are great teachers and great communicators. And it doesn't always have to be your best friend or because there's some great coaches out there, and there's some guys that it's just unfortunate, but there's only just so many spots, right, on a coaching staff, and there you could fill them with a lot of good coaches, and at the end of the day, I get the decision to make that choice, and through communication, and again, our process here, and that's who I want to surround myself with, and it's still it's an ongoing process right now. Nothing is set, nothing's been established, and I'm going to be working on that here in the coming days.
And then a quick question for you, Shad. Just what really made you kind of, firm in that you wanted to enter this process with Trent as general manager and not undergo any kind of change in the front office?
I want to have really the best people to help me. Simple as that.
Demetrius Harvey with the Big Cat Country. Just, Doug, have you decided yet, and I know it's early in the process, but have you decided yet if you're going to be calling plays? And can you just talk about how Trevor Lawrence fits into your offensive philosophy?
As far as Trevor goes, obviously it's something that as I get in here and really start diving into the film, I've been able to watch him, not only on TV, but look at him on tape and watch him and kind of know who he is, a little bit about him. But the more now that I get to come in here and really study him and study the game, and obviously, listen, he's one player on this team. He's a good player, but also watching the entire team, offense, defense, and special teams, and that's our job moving forward is to find more good pieces to put around him. So I'm excited, from that standpoint, and then refresh my memory on your first part of that. Calling plays, yeah. That's something that I pride myself in. I will say this right now that I want to call the plays, and I want to put myself in position to help this football team, and that's my not only lead the team, but I've done that in my 5 years in Philadelphia, and I feel really comfortable doing that. And listen, there are times when you get stuck in games and you turn things over. I'm going to be the first one to tell you that you get stuck as a play caller, and you turn it over to some different eyes, and that's just where I'm at. I want to do it. I want to continue to do it and be successful at it.
And then for Shad, you mentioned the need to add some structure or more structure to the front office and adding personnel. There were reports that Rick Spielman was in for an interview. Could you just confirm whether or not that occurred and if he will be joining your front office?
Well, we're looking at additional people. So, to strengthen the front office. Definitely we're going to be strengthening the front office. And, NFL has a process. We'll be following that, interviewing, people, and then, coming up with a structure that, helps us win.
Okay, thank you.
Dan Hicken and then Jean Fournette.
Hey, Coach. Dan Hicken, CBS 471010XL. Just curious about you and Trent's relationship. Did you guys know each other before? You just getting to know each other? And you talk about relationships and how important they are in succeeding in the National Football League, obviously. I'm just curious how you two envision working together.
Yeah, this is obviously the first time that I've really gotten to know him personally. When he was in San Francisco and I was working and stuff, that your paths cross from time to time and all of that. But this was the first time for me to really get to know him and the way he thinks and how he conducts business. And look, it's going to be it's going to be a relationship that's going to be ongoing, quite frankly. And it's going to be very positive. And one of the things that I like about Trent, and one thing that kind of drew me to him in this situation, is how open he is, how transparent he is. And and a lot of full disclosure. And it's disclosure within the structure that we're trying to build and the team we're trying to build, and the fact that he's allowing myself and others in the personnel department. Listen, it's about the input, and we got to have these, as I mentioned earlier, tough discussions, right, on players and how we build it. But this is something I'm looking forward to.
This question is for Trent. We hear the word collaborative a lot.
Yep.
It implies a lot of things: cooperation, symmetry, all that stuff. Just based on your early dealings with Doug, how do you feel that collaboration will actually go? And can you honestly say that there will not be any kind of a tug of war when it comes to power and all that stuff?
Yeah, I don't, people talk about that all the time. This question's asked in 32 buildings across the league. Who has power? Who's the final decision maker? Show me one building where you're not collaborative and you're winning. It just doesn't happen in the National Football League. So I think the collaboration that we're talking about is tough decisions got to be made at the end of the day, whether it's a draft pick, whether it's free agency. Those decisions come down sometimes to the wire, and somebody's got to make that decision. In this case, it's the three of us, right? We're going to sit down, we're going to collaborate, and I just think it's such an overused question in this business. And I feel very confident in saying, how many hours did we spend together?
A lot.
We spent a lot of hours together over the last couple of days just talking about philosophy, talking about the approach, collaboration, who's involved. And I can say this in my years in San Francisco, the 2 years that I've been here, 1 year as the general manager, we've had very open discussions. Last year, a lot of people were involved in putting those final decisions together, and we look forward to doing just that. I think we're very much on the same. I know we're very much on the same page on how this has to operate.
One quick follow-up. Have both of you had experiences where you were in a little bit of a decision struggle with somebody else in your organization, and you were able to defer to that person, whether you want to call it letting him have his way or anything like that?
I can speak from my perspective. Yeah, and what is this, year 9 now as a general manager in this league? Every year we talk about the 53 and who's got final say. In all those years, I can only remember maybe 2 instances where the 53rd player was in debate, right? Usually it's pretty much a consensus as you go through the preseason, and all the training camp and everything else. Every now and then there's one or two players you have to really work through, and sometimes for coaches that comes down to experience, and for personnel people it comes down to potential, right? And you're weighing the difference between those two. But it's really not as difficult a process as I think we want to make it seem to be. It's 2 people, 3 people getting in a room and really deciding what's best for the organization.
Mia O'Brien and then Mark Long.
This question is for Trent. Just curious, given that this process, and I know part of it is the fact that now the regular season is 18 weeks long, because this process has dragged into February, and knowing the turnover you guys had last spring because of a new regime and a different, a different scouting staff being brought in, what's your confidence level on being able to be present at the Senior Bowl today, being able to be present at all of these sort of scouting events, as well as looking into free agency, knowing this was your priority?
Well, I think we're going to have to hit the ground running. I mean, we've lost some time, but there was nothing more important than getting this hire right, and we did that. Now we got to switch focus. Coaches hitting the ground running, putting a staff together. The scouts are actually coming in, and I do want to. The scouting staff itself is intact. That's never been a debate. I mean, we have a very strong scouting department. We're going to add to that, and anything we can do to add to that is going to benefit the organization as a whole. So we're looking forward to that. But The scouts are coming in Sunday, tomorrow, and we'll start going to work on Monday. The pro department's been putting together their list for free agency. We're in very good shape that way. Now it's a matter of involving the coaches, the coaching staff, and as Doug and I talked, that's going to be critical, and we're going to have to get after it as soon as we get them through the door.
One other question from me. What did you learn in your 1 year working here with Urban Meyer, the 1 year you've been here as the general manager?
We have an owner that really wants to win, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to do that. He's been nothing but supportive to me, and through obviously some trying times. So I know this, he wants to win. He's all about the community, and I think his efforts show that time and time again. And that's what we're here to do, build a winner.
Doug, following up on that a little bit, do you feel like you're behind the 8 ball in terms of putting together a staff? You feel like you're behind already?
No.
No. Confidence-wise then in being able to assemble?
Very high.
Okay, good. Shad, just to be a little more direct on building the front office, do you envision an EVP above these two guys, or do you envision somebody underneath Trent helping Trent?
I think both of those. We have filed a request with the NFL for EVP, and so we'll be doing that process. But definitely, I think, the interview process, we got great insights on how the organization under Trent is structured. So we need depth there, simple as that, experienced. So both of those are what we're working on.
And then Trent, with that set up, what would that do? How does that help you moving forward and free you up to do other things?
Well, it frees me up to focus on personnel. There's nothing more important in an organization than the personnel, whether that's players, coaches, scouts, support staff. It's all about the people. And it'll allow me to focus directly on that, more importantly, free agency in the draft.
Looks like we have a couple more. John Shipley, and then we'll wrap it up with Ashton Sullivan.
Doug, how important is it for you to, look at the structure around the quarterback in terms of, pass catchers, the offensive line? How important is it to you to kind of get that right around Trevor, even before developing Trevor himself?
It's important. It's important. You always want to have, especially around a talented quarterback, you have that one receiver, maybe a pass catching tight end. Those things are, I remember my days playing in Green Bay. We had those guys, as players, and that's when you start looking at offensive line, obviously controlling the line of scrimmage, and who your running backs are, and that's as I said earlier. Those pieces are here, and we just got to add to that roster, and then as coaches, that's where we come in, right? And we come in to help elevate these players to be successful, and Trevor. Trevor's in that group too. We got to get him to play at a high level. Obviously play better. Learn from last year. One of the greatest things that we have going for us right now is the fact that he played every game, and he's got film that we can go back and watch and study and help him improve as well.
Absolutely. And then Shad, just overall, with all the candidates you spoke to and with Doug's extensive NFL background, why was it important to you to really talk to candidates with lengthy, NFL backgrounds this cycle?
Well, I think, it's really important. And I think, again, what we need is different from what other clubs would need. I think, being able to, develop Trevor and really, some of the other attributes which Doug is perfect for. I think that's what we need right now. So.
All right, we'll wrap it up with Ashlyn. Thank you.
Coach, I know it's been a bit of an overwhelming day. You said you're not necessarily a camera guy, and there are a lot of cameras here, but your first day here in Jacksonville, when you look back at it, what will stand out?
I just think the excitement that I've seen already, the enthusiasm surrounding the Jaguars, and from the time my wife and I hit the ground this morning to the folks at the airport, and that to me sends a great message to me personally, and now as the head coach, of the Jacksonville Jaguars, because it's a fan base here that desperately wants to win, just like Shad mentioned, just like Trent mentioned. And so for me to come here today to feel, I just felt that, just walking in this building. And, I'm also excited with a new building coming in the future, and that just drives enthusiasm. And we're just here to continue that growth and, put the product on the field that people are proud to support.
All right, thank you. Beat writers, if you guys can head outside, we'll bring Doug out to you for a little one-on-one, and the TV stations can get set up outside as well. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. There you have it, the comments of Jaguars owner Shad Khan, general manager Trent Baalke, and new head coach Doug Pederson. JP Shadrick, senior writer John Ozier, Jaguars.com is with us, and so is pride of the Jaguars left tackle Tony Baselli. What was the best thing you heard in that whole 49 minutes or so?
I mean, I don't know if it's any one thing I heard. I think the best thing about today is I love the hire. I mean, I think Doug Pederson, if you'd asked me 5 weeks ago whenever Shad said we started this, it feels like a lifetime, doesn't it?
It has been.
It's been a while. He would have been at the very top of my list as one of the, handful of guys. Like, you can't go wrong if you get him. And, it might have taken a little bit longer than the fans wanted, and because everyone gets anxious because they want to move forward. And last year was so tough that, like, we just want to wash it clean. It's like, I want to take a shower and wash everything off and get a new, fresh start. And I think that's what I sensed. And that was the exciting part. I mean, this is a guy who's won a Super Bowl. I mean, this is a guy who's been 3 straight division championships, went to the playoffs. I still have no idea why Philly fired the guy. I don't think anyone does. And so I think it's a great hire.
What do you love, Tony? And you're around the league covering for Westwood One more than JP and I are out there. Tell me about Doug Pederson, your impressions of him as a coach in Philadelphia, X's and O's, leadership. What's his best trait?
Well, I think it's the leadership. I mean, that doesn't mean he's not a good X and O guy. I mean, he called plays. I mean, he scored 38 points with Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. I mean, I think that took several weeks for us to get that done before. So he's obviously very good at calling plays, but he's a leader. And you talk to guys who played with him. You talk to guys who've been on his staff. You never hear a bad thing. Like, you hear, this is a guy you want to be around. And I can't. There's nothing negative I can think of. I mean, this is a great job by. Give Shad a ton of credit. Give Trent. Those guys ran a process. I know they took a lot of heat. I don't think fairly all the time, but they head down. Let's get it done right, and they did.
Doug Pederson will join us here on set. We'll kick Tony Baselli out of here just a little bit.
Second fiddle here.
They're doing a photo shoot outside at the West Club at the moment, but he'll be in. We'll have some more questions for Doug Pederson coming up. I found it interesting. He just wanted to take a year off. They tried to talk to him last year. He said, you know what, I'm out of football, and he talked a lot about that today, how important family was to him and getting recentered, as he said it. And now he's refreshed and ready to go again. That's good news for the Jaguars.
Yeah, the only positive thing about, I think, being an NFL coach, about getting fired, is you're probably going to get paid for at least 1 year to hang out at home. And so,
I want that.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
I want that.
You want that? Yeah. It's so, but the bad side of that, and you heard him say it, you're competitive and you love football. And so that's that mix of, you get to hang out with the family and kind of, I thought what he said about families really, like, the wives and or husbands of these individuals who work in the NFL during the season, you don't see them a lot. And he's been a player and then coaches. He's been doing it for a long time. So I'm sure it was really good for him to, spend that year with his family.
And Tony, this is really the first time JP and I were talking about it before the show, or before the press conference. It's really the first time the Jaguars have had a quarterback-centric coach who's been in that before. That seems to be a norm right now. Is that important? You're around the league more than we are. Is that important to have, or is that just a byproduct?
It doesn't hurt, but I think it's a little overplayed. I'm a big, just because you're a good offensive coordinator doesn't mean you're going to be a good head coach.
Right.
I mean, they're two different skill sets, and you guys have been around long enough to know that. And so Doug's a great head coach. Mm-hmm. He's a quarterback, so that is helpful to Trevor because he can see the game through Trevor's eyes and how he operates. So I think that's nothing but positive.
Right.
but it's the leadership that's more important than anything. And you're right. I mean, if you look at the coaches we had, I mean, Tom was he was an offensive mind. If you go back, I mean, not the quarterback, but after that was Del Rio. You had Gus in there. You know, a number of defensive guys. I'm not sure what Urban was, but yeah. And so, in this league today, you got to score points. Doug's been a coordinator where they score points. Again, to me, that's still secondary. It's about the leadership. You need good leadership in this building right now at that position. I think he'll bring it.
It's about the players looking up at the front of the room and believing
well,
in it.
You got to
right?
believe. I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, and John, we've talked about this before. I think players sniff through the garbage quickly. And if you lose credibility with the locker room, if they stop believing what you're selling, you're going to have a hard time.
And this is instant credibility with the chance to last.
Well, instant credibility, Lombardi Trophy, ex-player, so he gets what it means to be a player in this league. Guys who play the game, they like that. And so, yeah, I think a lot of good things.
How long can that last, though? Yeah, it gets him credibility, but how long does that credibility
but then you got to earn it. So I think this is a relationship business. Yeah. You have to be able to build relationships. I think building relationships with players is more important now than ever. And relationships are built on trust. And you have to earn that trust, both sides. And so the work starts now, JP, your point. Yeah. Credibility coming in, but you have to earn trust and build relationships.
Tony, thanks for the time. Good luck with the Pro Bowl this weekend. Yeah, next week, the Hall of Fame
we
stuff.
got a lot going on. We'll see what happens. You know,
you're up for the Hall of Fame?
That's what someone told me. So that's the rumor. But yeah, I'll be in Vegas, flying there right now, JP, heading to the airport from here, and going to go call the Pro Bowl. Really a hard-hitting, intense football game we're going to have in Vegas tomorrow.
Should be.
We'll see you in LA, buddy.
See you, buddy.
Good luck.
Tony Vaselli, pride of the Jaguars, left tackle, joining us here on Jaguars.com. There you see his coaching resume, Doug Pederson. I'm curious. We talked about this on the Huddle Up podcast yesterday with Bucky Brooks. You know, the high school time. 3 years trying to figure out who does what. I mean, it was his first time coaching, and how that went into his early process as a coach, moving on to the NFL after that. It may not be a big thing now. Obviously, a lot of time has happened since then, but I think to build a foundation as a coach, those 3 years early, don't overlook those as a high school coach.
Well, I'll defer to Bucky's thoughts and try to paraphrase him. I talked to Bucky early in the week about this when we thought maybe Doug was the guy, and then on the Huddle Up podcast. And he said, don't underemphasize the fact that Pederson had those 4 years there, because it helped him take situations where in high school you deal with what you've got. There's no free agency in high school, or at most high schools, if you will.
Yeah,
but
sure.
So you've got to figure out how to win, how to motivate every level of player, every type of player, and figure out a way around certain things. And Bucky, who knows Doug, they're friends from playing days and have stayed in touch, said that influenced him greatly. I'll be anxious over the course of time to talk to Doug about that a little more. But it makes sense. You draw from every sort of experience you've had, every level that you've had, and it sounds like Doug Pederson drew from that and then went directly into the NFL, where he learned on the job at different levels. He was a quality control guy, earned his way to quarterbacks coach, earned his way to offensive coordinator, earned his way to head coach. So he's seen all levels of the NFL as well, in addition to the high school days.
Yeah, and working his way up through the Andy Reid system there in Philadelphia, working with those quarterbacks we talked about before the press conference today, and then moving on to Kansas City as the offensive coordinator for the first time, and then, of course, back to Philadelphia to get it done there. Doug Pederson coming up, scheduled to join us here in just a few moments. They're still outside behind us on the deck here in the West Club.
Does he not know who we are, JP?
I think he's about to find out in a few minutes. I don't know. It's his first day in the building today, and loved a lot of what we heard from that. We also heard a lot of other news, too, about the structure of the organization moving ahead. Jaguars owner Shad said they have put in with the league for EVP interview requests. So
yeah, that's the news out of it.
That's the big
news. That an EVP will set the tone and vision for the organization. So that was a big news drop there. So we'll see how that plays out over the coming weeks. Also interesting, Shad confirmed 10 candidates interviewed and talked over and over again, and this lines up with everything I've heard, an exhaustive process that they were trying to get the process right. And as Tony alluded to, people want answers quickly. People in the Twitter, I don't know if Twitter's out there, JP. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. that has become such a push for this sort of thing. And I do think Shad, after what happened to the Jaguars last year, wanted to make sure he got it right. And overall, I agree with what Tony said. The head coaching part, we talked about it in the intro. The experience, the ability to stand in front of the room. I know it's a broken record today. That is so key, and it feels like the Jaguars have that. You know, you would have been uncomfortable and wondered, I think, had you not had somebody that experience at the front of the room.
Well, Doug Pederson heading our way now. The new Jaguars head coach having a quick final conversation. He'll join us here. By the way, Trevor Lawrence apparently provided Haagen-Dazs ice cream today. We saw the video circling around on Twitter the last couple days of the Philadelphia Eagles, and after team meetings on Saturday night, he has ice cream. So they put all those ice cream mentions together in one season and one video. So
did he throw in for some sandwiches too?
That's a good idea. Yeah, it's about that time of day, I believe. Excited to hear from Doug Pederson coming up, being back in the NFL after a year off. You know, the coaching style, the impact some others have made on his career. And here he comes now, here on Jaguars.com. Coach, good to see you. JP Shadrick.
JP, good to see you.
Doug, John Oehser from Jaguars.com. Nice to meet you.
Welcome in. We're live on Jaguars.com right now.
There we go.
You know, first off, Trevor Lawrence bought ice cream, so there's your Haagen-Dazs.
There it is, Haagen-Dazs, my favorite.
Got to get started the right way.
You'll wear out on those after a while.
After a while, yeah. Thank you.
So you got to be excited to be back in. What did you learn about yourself as a head coach and maybe the processes of a head coach in some time away? Did you have a chance to reflect on that?
Yeah, you know, it's obviously a lot that the head coach has to shoulder. And really it's about building relationships. And I felt like part of the things that I've learned or took away from my time in Philadelphia was just that, you know, building relationships with Howie Roseman, the general manager, being very open and honest, even with the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, and, you know, and bringing those same qualities here to Jacksonville with Shad Khan and obviously Tony and with Trent, and really kind of keeping that process going. I think that's something that I've learned, you know, over my time as a head coach, and really also to supporting the players. I think it's important that we keep the main thing, and that's something that I talk a lot about, you know, with the team and the organization, and you know, we're only as good sometimes as that locker room, and it's my job to motivate and prepare that football team to be successful each week.
Doug, there's a limited number of people who have won Super Bowls as a head coach. A lot of them step away from the game and don't come back. Why come back? What motivated you?
Because I want to win another one, you know, and quite frankly, and that's the motivation for me. You know, I've been fortunate and blessed as a player and a coach to go to 3 Super Bowls in my career, and you know, when it kind of gets in your system and in your bloodstream, it's just hard to give that up, and so, you know, that's something that I want to help build here, you know, build that championship culture, and something, again, that these fans and this ownership can be proud of.
Doug Pederson with us, Jaguars head coach. You know, you came in the league in 1991, a little bit ago. It was a different league back in 1991. The role analytics have played over the last decade or so. You know, how, as a guy who's been around the league that long, to adjust and accept some of the roles and the analytics that they play in play calling? We saw it in Philadelphia in the Super Bowl year, going forward on 4th down, 2-point conversions, using the chart. Is it difficult for a guy like you who's been around to change your stripes, and is that you now moving forward still?
You know, I think you're never going to change your stripes, but I think one thing that analytics has taught me is how to be more efficient and how to make even better decisions in game. That's the one thing that I've appreciated about the analytics. There's so much data and information, it can really just swamp your mind and bog you down and really take you away from kind of who you are. But use it as a tool, use it as a resource, you know, not only through the week, but on game day. It helps you game plan, helps you make in-game decisions, and you know, it's just a great resource and a great tool to have.
You've addressed Trevor already on the podium, but it's a quarterback league. Fans want to know. Just your impressions and how much looking forward are you to working with a guy of his talent?
Very mature, young, talented quarterback, and everybody I've talked to, you know, coaches around the league that have played Trevor this past year, say he's got a bright future, and it's all the things that you kind of want when you're looking for quarterbacks and drafting quarterbacks, and now it's our job is to really, you know, hone his skills, get him better, help him to improve. And that's the one thing. And I've just met him briefly, had a couple phone conversations with him, but I can sense that he wants to be coached. He wants to be coached hard. He wants to learn. He wants to grow. And, he sees the NFL and the quarterbacks that are successful, and he wants to be in that conversation. So that's exciting to me, to have a guy like that really puts that much into an organization, having, living here in the off season, and then ultimately wanting to be the best player he can.
Time for a couple more with you. What's your first order of business now since you're in the building?
Well, obviously getting the lay of the land, but really, it's going to be the staffing issue. It's getting the guys in here now that I want to surround myself with good teachers, high energy guys, as I mentioned before, and that to me is kind of the first order. And then once we come together as a staff, then we'll begin to evaluate the roster and move into free agency and then move into the draft. We're a little, from a coaching perspective, we're a little behind a touch right now, but listen, we haven't even played the Super Bowl yet, so there's a few other staffs that are going to be behind as well. So, but that's kind of the first order right now.
Probably an unfair question. Any thoughts on the roster, or is that still, I've got to study it a little more?
I've got to study it more. I haven't dived into the whole thing or really spent a whole lot of time looking at defensive players. I look at individual players as much as like scheme and some of that, but and the same way on offense, right? So it's just a matter now of just and again that's where the staff comes in too, and evaluating the guys, and we go from there.
Final thought with you here. Football Performance Center has broken ground outside. What have you seen of the drawings and the renderings of that? How excited are you for that? And it gives you a sense of where this organization is moving forward in all facets.
Well, I was able to put my eyes on some renderings this morning, in the building, and I know everybody's excited about that, moving from here out of the stadium to their own brand new, sports performance center, and it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be a place that I think the Jaguar Nation here and the fans are going to be proud of. Obviously, the organization and what Shad Khan has brought not only to this organization but to the city of Jacksonville, and it's just it's a place that you call home, a place that you come to work every day, and you grind and you have those long hours, but it's going to be a beautiful place when it's built.
Doug, thanks for the time. Congratulations. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Doug Pederson, head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, joining us here on Jaguars.com. And there you have it. The resume so far. Put another Lombardi on the bottom of that graphic would be nice. He's taking the Haagen-Dazs with him. They only brought one to the table for some reason. I don't know how that works, but you'll
figure out a way to get one.
We'll get to that coming up.
I trust
in
you.
Just a little bit. So good to hear from the new Jaguars head coach there. Everything as advertised so far, and you know what? Got to get right to it and get that staffing done right.
First day of the rest of his life, so to speak. I mean, and it's interesting because there are coaches who step away and don't come back, and clearly he didn't want to be one of those. Sees the challenge and wants to go do it again. So. That's where we're at, JP.
John, well done today, and we'll look forward to your writing coming up on Jaguars.com. You'll have full coverage coming up.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks to our entire crew. Super collaborative effort today. A lot going on. Our thanks to Tony Baselli, for John Ozier, and our whole crew. I'm JP Shadrick. Thank you for watching. Doug Pederson, the new head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars.